So now I need to collect my signatures, and I think I'm going to use 3 signatures. So I have a variety of papers here. It's going to be very junky, and I have 3 groups of them. So now I'm just going to fold them to make spreads, and then I will assemble them. This one I see, this is not going to work because I'm folding against the grain of the paper and it's going to break. So I'm going to take these out. I think I have 1 in each, and I'll use them for ephemera or something else. All right, so there's one. We'll do the same to the next. All right, so there's my 3 signatures. I'm going to try and see. That's about how thick my book will be. Just seeing if I like that or if I want to bulk it up. It's okay, it's a little small. I think I'm going to make it thicker. So one thing I might do is add some intermediate pockets, like in between, and that will help bulk it up. And then I think because I took these papers out because they're just too brittle to use as a spread, I'm going to go grab some ledger paper and replace those pages. Alright, so I found this ledger paper, which I can use. Cut it in half. This one I'll fold this way. And we'll stick it somewhere in here. Maybe here. There we go. And then this one will go somewhere in here. It does have a tear, that's okay. And then I think I will stick this in here. Actually, no, wait, I do have another piece of ledger paper. This was avocado dyed. I'll use that. Okay, so now I'm just going to have to trim these to size. So I'm going to sort of center them all and let them just get cut where they do. But I'm going to cut them all to about 4 by 6 mainly, or 4 by 6 pages. That would be 8 by 6 spreads. So that should do it. I'll be right back. All right, so I have 3 signatures ready to go, and I still might toss in these envelopes. I'm deciding. It's one of those projects. I don't really know what I'm ultimately doing. I'm just sort of winging it as I go. But I do know I need to come up with 2 pieces of fabric, perfect, about the size of my covers, the height of my covers. And so now I want to cut a piece of good sturdy fabric like this. This is old upholstery fabric that was kind of cool. It was samples, and somebody had taken all these samples, they were all different, and made a crazy quilt out of it, a lap quilt. And now I'm taking the lap quilt and making something else out of it. So recycle, recycle. So I need these to be about 6 inches. So I'm going to first put it on here and clean up this edge a little bit. Okay, so now 6 inches is going to bring me down to 19. There we go. Okay, so now this I can just cut in half, and it's still bigger than I need, but we'll deal with that later. Okay, so I'm going to take this, I have my signatures, and I'm going to sew them into this. Now, I'm going to sew them at about a 1/4 inch apart on center, so each of these will be about a 1/4 inch apart. And am I going to put in a few of these? I'm still deciding. All right, originally I was going to sew these on my sewing machine onto this piece of fabric, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to sew them into this piece of fabric. And to do that, I do want to punch some holes in there, because this is a lot of paper to send a needle through and keep it all even. So I'm going to just use any old book and punch with my awl sort of in the center, whatever looks like the center, then about 1/2 or 3/4 of an inch from the top and the bottom. I'm going to do that for all three. They don't have to be in the same place. There's a lot of flexibility in this binding because we're just sewing it to fabric. Okay, so I don't care that my holes don't line up. They don't have to. All right, but I do want to keep them even this way. So there will be some clamping going on so that they stay even as I sew. So I'm going to just take this one. Let's get them how we like it. I'm going to clamp it this way. Well, actually not that way because I need to open it up. And clamp it this way. I need the signature to be open. This way and this way. All right, so now I'm just going to sort of find the center of this. There we go. I'm going to take my thread and my needle. Pick a needle, any needle. Doesn't have to be big. There we go. All right, so I'm going to start with the needle on the inside, and I've got my signatures pretty much centered, and again, doesn't really matter, I can trim them later. I'm going to put my first needle hole in, and again, keeping the signature sort of straight in the fabric. So I'll actually do this. And now I'm going to just eyeball it and say, okay, well, I've got to come up here somewhere. And it looks like it's about there. Go back through here. That looks pretty good. Okay, and now I'm going to come out this way through these holes, again, keeping it straight-ish on this. Keep getting stuck on these things. There we go. I'm going to go back in here, back in that middle hole. You've seen me do this pamphlet stitch 10,000 times, so that's all I'm doing. Sending it back into that hole. There we go, and pull. Okay, so there's one. And now we're just going to tie in the rest. It is kind of tricky. You want to pull it pretty tight, and you want to make sure you're on each side of our little long piece, like so. Pull it tight, and then give it a knot. It is tricky because you can't see the hole because you're sort of sewing blind. But as long as you're reasonably straight, it doesn't matter that much on this. There we go, there's one. All right, so now I'm going to take more thread. 1, 2. And this is waxed linen, so just sort of activate it, and we give it a few yanks. And now we thread the needle. All right, so now we have to open up our signatures. So we're going to hold on to them. We go to the next one. And we're going to reclamp on both sides. So we're going to clamp this one to the front. You know, we're going to clamp the middle one to the front and to the one on the back. So it opens like so. Now we're just going to take our fabric and clamp it on both sides. Alright, so now we go to the next signature, and we're just leaving it in. We're going to kind of let it find its own way. So I'm going to stop and start here in the middle. And you can see it's a little farther over. That's perfect. Now we're going to look up here. It's going to get tricky here. And see where is our hole? Oh, it's right about there. So I'm just going to find my hole. I can see it. Yeah, I can see it. There it goes. Okay, oh, there we go. So we go in and pull. Now I'm going to come all the way across to the other bottom hole, stick it through, look at it and see. Now again, I did not line up my holes, and I told you it didn't matter, and it truly does not. So now I'm going to pull my tail, and this is where it gets a little tricky because I do want to go back in through here so I can kind of just feel it. I can feel it. Oh, yes. Oh, a little off. A little off. There we go. And just pull it in. Okay. Make sure it's on, one is on each side of our thread, and then give it a good pull and a knot. Easy enough. And the last one. So now we're going to unclip and open up the next, like so. And we can keep this clamped to here with one of these. You can see it's still clamped to there. I'm just going to go ahead and sew this last one in. And you got it. Just going to make sure it goes through here, through our original hole. That one's a little farther away. I'm trying to decide if I care. I think I care a little, so I'm going to pull it out and see if I can't get it closer. There. Perfect. All right. Same deal as the others. Look up here and see where is the hole. I can see it's right about there. I want to stay sort of aligned vertically, but this is a shabby journal, so we have a lot of room for movement. Okay, I'm going to come back up here to to that last hole. Let's see how we're doing. Yeah, it looks fine. I'm going to stick it in here. Let's see, that looks good. And again, don't worry about it if it's not, if these don't line up this way, we're good. And now I'm going to come back into this hole, more or less. See if I can't feel around. Oh, perfect that time. And come back through that hole. And now pull and knot. And then double knot. And trim. Okay, so now we have our signatures sewn in. Super easy, pretty even. I'm pleased. Now we are going to ultimately glue this fabric to this fabric and just cover it up like so. So now our spine is actually this material, which I have backward, but that's okay. There we go. I guess technically I have this backward too. So now I'm going to glue the two together, and that's going to cover my stitches. All right, and I'm just going to use Fabro whatever for it. Maybe that's, which is the front? Oh no, it goes this way. I had it right on this one. That's the back. Okay, I keep wanting to try this, but I don't think I like it. So I'm going to just use regular Fabro whatever. And I am going to stick a piece of paper under this. And it probably should be wax paper, but this is what I have handy. So I'm going to put a fair amount of glue on this. Okay, and then definitely on my stitches. And then I'm just going to put it down, kind of in the middle. Try and line it up, but that's okay because we're going to trim it. And now, keep rubbing here, here. So with 2 layers of this upholstery fabric, we have a plenty strong spine for this little journal. And then you want to keep bending it and burnishing. Okay, so now what's next? Now we're going to let this dry for a few minutes and probably under something heavy. So here we go. Let's just leave that for a few minutes while it gets itself settled, and we'll get ready for the next part. So I let this sit under my weight for a few minutes, and it feels perfect. So we're going to do one last thing to this, and then move on to the covers, the cover covers. So what we want to do is miter this, because if we put this in our cover, because our measurements were so perfect, it is going to be difficult to not have it show up here. We don't want that. That's amateur hour. So let's take some good scissors and just cut that at a bit of an angle. All the way right to your, spreads. I'm gonna cut that just a little bit of an angle. I'm going to do it on both ends. So what I like about this binding is it will look ragged after a while, and that was kind of the whole point in choosing this kind of binding and cover, was the idea that it's going to be fuzzy and frayed and all of that. So now I've cut that. I'm looking at this and thinking, I can cut this further too. Trying to decide. Yeah, I definitely could. So I can cut at least an inch off each of these. So the width here. So let's go ahead and do that. That wasn't an inch, was it? It was less than an inch. All right, so I'm going to cut less than an inch. And just tidy up for what is going to go under the covers. There we go. Okay, so this can just sit now. And we're going to start decorating the cover.